The fascinating story of O Holy Night began in France, yet eventually made its way around the world. I am Gail Woods, the pastor of the Churches of God Holiness in Cayman Islands, coming to you today with a word of hope that I hope will add joy to your Christmas season. In 1847, a man in France, a small town, he was known just for his poetry more than his church attendance. He's probably shocked when a parish priest asked him to write a poem for Christmas Mass. Nevertheless, this poet was honored to share his talent with the church, and so in a dusty coach traveling down a bumpy road to France's capital city, using the Gospel of Luke as his guide, he imagined witnessing the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. By the time he reached Paris, his new poem had been completed. Moved by his work, he decided that this was not just a poem, but it needed to be a song that needed a master musician's hand. And not musically inclined himself, he turned to one of his friends, Adolphe Charles Adams, for help. And Adolphe was the son of a well-known classical musician and had studied in Paris Conservatory. His talent and fame brought requests to write works for orchestras and ballets all over the world. Adolphe was a Jew. Nevertheless, he quickly went to work. And the song was performed just 3 weeks later at the midnight mass on Christmas Eve. Now, initially, the carol was wholeheartedly accepted by the church in England, or church in France, rather, and it was used in various Catholic churches. But when the poet walked away from the church, the author of the song walked away from the church and became a part of the socialist movement, the church leaders discovered that Adams was a Jew, and the song, which had quickly grown to be one of the most beloved Christmas songs in France, was suddenly and uniformly denounced by the church. The heads of the French Catholic Church of the time deemed the carol to be unfit for church services because of its lack of musical taste and total absence of the spirit of religion. And yet, even as the Roman Catholic Church tried to bury this Christmas song, the French people continued to sing it. And a decade later, a reclusive American writer discovered the song and brought it to a whole new audience halfway around the world. Not only did this American writer, John Sullivan Dwight, feel that this wonderful Christmas song needed to be introduced to America, he saw something else in the song that moved him beyond the story of the birth of Christ. Dwight was an ardent abolitionist, and he strongly identified with the lines of the third verse of the song. Truly, he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. His English translation of O Holy Night quickly found favor in America, especially in the North during the Civil War. Back in France, even though the song had been banned by the church for almost 20 years, many commoners still sang this song at home. On Christmas Eve, 1871, in the midst of the fierce fighting between the armies of Germany and France during the Franco-Prussian War, a French soldier suddenly jumped out of a muddy trench. Both sides stared at the seemingly crazy man, boldly standing with no weapon in his hand, no weapon in his side. He lifted his eyes to the heavens and began to sing, "O Holy Night," in French. Well, after completing all three verses, the German infantryman climbed out of his hiding place and answered by singing Martin Luther's song, "From Heaven Above to Earth I Come." The story goes that the fighting stopped for the next 24 hours while the men on both sides observed a temporary peace in honor of Christ and his Christmas Day. Adams had been dead for many years. The author of this French poem and White, the man who brought the song to America, were old men. When on Christmas Eve 1906, Reginald Fessenden, a 30-year-old university professor from Canada, now working in America, a former chief chemist for Thomas Edison, did something long thought impossible. Using a new type of generator, Fessenden spoke in a microphone, and for the first time in history, a man's voice was broadcast over the airways. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. He began to read in clear, strong voice, and shocked radio operators on ships and astonished wireless owners at newspapers set slack-jawed as their normal coded impulses, heard over tiny speakers, were interrupted by this professor reading from the Gospel of Luke. To the few who caught this broadcast, it must have seemed like a miracle, hearing a voice somehow transmitted to those far away. Some might have believed they were hearing the voice of an angel. Fessenden, now considered to be the father of radio telephony, was probably unaware of the sensation he was causing on ships and in offices. He couldn't have known that men and women were rushing to their wireless units to catch this Christmas Eve miracle. But after finishing his recitation of the birth of Christ, Fessenden picked up his violin and he played "O Holy Night," the first song ever sent through the air via radio waves. When the carol ended, so did the broadcast, but not before the music had found a new medium that would take it around the world. Well, since that first rendition at a small Christmas Mass in 1847, "O Holy Night" has been sung millions of times in churches in every corner of the world. And since the moment a handful of people first heard it played over the radio, the carol has gone on to become one of the entertainment industry's most recorded and played spiritual songs. With that, I want to wish each one of you a Merry Christmas. It's more than a holiday. It is a day to celebrate the birth of our Savior. And as you sing "O Holy Night" this Christmas, I hope that you will revel in the wonder and the love of God who gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him might not perish, but have everlasting life. God richly bless you. Have a Merry Christmas.